Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks at Ungainly Titan. We're here on Salvage Yard, which is essentially Malinovka with a paint job. It's a lot of the maps have been rebranded, somewhat as a result of the new Mercenaries branding. I didn't really realise until I was looking at something in the Xbox application that World of Tanks console is now really World of Tanks Mercenaries is the official name. But Salvage Yard is pretty much Malinovka, and any tactics that are valid in Malinovka are equally valid on Salvage Yard, and I don't think much changes, and I think the map is still dominated by whoever controls A9, A0. The control over those squares are essentially the key to the whole map. It can be won with alternatives, and it can even be won against teams that have taken over A9, A0. However, Limming Rush, a YouTuber, PC YouTuber, Unicum PC YouTuber, who I've been watching recently and is very, very good at explaining his decision making, and I think worth a look, link in the video description to the video in question, made a point in a recent video that one should not scout Malinovka. And in some ways, in hindsight, this video kind of supports his view. He makes the case that scouting in Malinovka highlights the heavy tanks going up to the hill. So, for instance, you'd scout on the green scouts who kind of go to here maybe, or maybe slightly more aggressive on the western side, but the western side is more of a PC play than in a console play because there's more foliage on the PC version. On the console, you're far more likely to be spotted. You're very likely to be spotted moving into position. The red positions are kind of red scout positions, but again, western side, probably again more aggressive than what I've mapped in. The little painting creator window is not the best for picking out exact locations on the map. At least in my video editor, because I don't get a full-size map, I get a rather smaller version of it, and even if I zoom in, it's a bit blurry, not always that clear. However, his point is that if you go to any of these scouting locations, you spot the enemy tanks as they're heading up towards the enemy, or towards A0, and what happens is, the effect of it is that your heavy tanks, on their way up, stop to shoot at the tanks that are lit up. So your heavy tanks are around wherever the green and red locations for each team respectively, and they'll stop and shoot at the other crowd across the open ground. And the effect of this is that the tanks that stop to shoot either don't arrive at A0 at all, or they arrive very staggered, depending on how much time they spend trying to shoot tanks across the map. So the enemy is likely to arrive at A0 first, they're likely to arrive there with more, and they're likely to be more effective, because one of the problems with A0 is that if you are coming, say, if you're the green team, and you're in A8 when the enemy reach A0, then you're likely to be disadvantaged, because if they make it into A9 at all, then they're going to be hull down on the ridge against you, while you're kind of shooting up at hull down tanks. If you can make it into A9, you're not necessarily hull down. Neither side is really hull down. It's just the only cover then is the windmill. Similarly, if you're the red tanks and the enemy green tanks make it to A0, then you're caught and you're still in C0, then the enemy tanks are hull down. Whereas if you made it to B0, at least you'd have a chance of being hull down against them. So the advantage is very much then on whoever's at the correct position first with the most. And then instead of having kind of a fair fight around A0 with all the heavy tanks, you have an unfair fight with where the enemy's heavy tanks are defeated in detail at various locations along the route up to the top of the hill. Now, I wasn't thinking about that at all when I was playing this game, but in hindsight I think the game kind of highlights his position. And it is worth considering. In this particular game, there was no early scouting because there's no scouting out of the team. They have 2 medium tanks, we have 3 medium tanks. Our 2 mediums are a Pershing and a Panther 2, both top tier, and their mediums are, I think, from Panther 8.8 and a T-34-85. Now, I wouldn't be inclined to go to the hill in the T-34-85. Panther 88 and Panthers I'm not really familiar with, possibly. The Pershing I would be inclined to go to the hill with. But I came over here because recently I've seen a lot of games on the console where nobody goes here. This position is completely abandoned by the north spawning team, and I think that's a really bad idea. Now, it's not a position for every tank, it's a position for a tank that is reasonably stealthy. Now, the Kraft Panther isn't the best, but it's not the worst. And it does have a decent enough fast firing gun. So I'm staying behind the trees. I'm basically trying to scout people pushing forward. I'd prefer to be in a tank with a better view range so that I could actually have scouted people from further back. I mean, that Black Prince has gotten into a reasonably advanced position before I spotted him. And so did the Churchill 7, but I can still outview them. They're both heavy tanks. So I should be in a position to be able to fire, particularly since I have the cover of the bushes. It's not as good as, like I said, it might be, but it's good enough for the purposes here. Now, if it was different, if it was light tanks or medium tanks I was up against, in this particular case, I'd be more likely to be spotted. But we've taken care of the Churchill, and we don't have a line of sight in the Black Prince. But yes, to get back to Lemming Rush's point, yes, nobody's really scouted on this game, so the heavy tanks exactly did pretty much what they were supposed to do, except our guys got there first. I'm not too sure what the enemy heavy tanks are doing, but it seems like there's a lot of tanks there. Now, the game will tell as to what tanks are actually up there. Now, the Black Prince has decided to come around this side of the little hill. He's hiding behind, and I can shoot him now. He's put a shot into me, so he's worked out where I am from just looking at my tracer. So I'm going to back off a little, because I'm not going to lose line of sight. He didn't spot me. He just kind of guessed. So I'm going to move around a bit as I fire to just make it a little bit more difficult for him to tell where I am and to shoot me back. Blind fire. This point of the game, I'm thinking though that there are so many enemy tanks at C0, and there are enemy tanks identified at the other side of the village. Now, I don't have the view range from here to spot into the village. There are tanks you could bring if I had light tanks or tanks with better view ranges. You could sometimes scout from there or spot from there into the village. But I'm going to kind of make a scouting run around this point in the game, because I want to see if there's anybody around where that Black Prince was. And if I get closer, I should be in a position to spot him. Or at the very least, well, Sixth Sense is lit up there, but that's probably from the heavy tanks on the hill. And I can back off. They're busy enough that I wouldn't be a priority target. I don't have a clean shot at any of them, and I'm not actually shooting at any of them at the moment. So, and I've come up here, peeked up, and I haven't been spotted. So the houses between myself and the hill, so I think there's nobody around where that Black Prince was. And I could push forward, and even if I get spotted in a more forward position, I am now putting these guys under pressure, because I know there's somebody starting to appear on their flank, and they're going to start looking over their shoulder, and there's already a tank, the T-29, that's moved in behind them, which is pretty aggressive positioning. So I'm coming over the hill here. There's just the fatherland left on this side, and there's a medium tank down there in the centre on the only remaining tanks sort of east of the lakes, which is the T-34-85. And he's caught in a kind of a no man's land there. He'd have been better off if he had been either further forward or further back. Where he was, he had no real escape. He'd have been better off, I suppose, at the lake edge at this stage of the game. He'd have a chance at least of making a run for it. But I'm coming around here now, and I'm going to be the lead tank coming in, because I'm in a pretty aggressive position relative to my team. But it suggests there's quite a few tanks that went into the field or in the village direction, because the red team didn't really push out of the village area. Now it's the Salvage Yard or whatever the new metaphor for this map is, but it's where the village used to be. But it's similar kind of setup with a similar number of fortified locations that you can hide behind. But the T-29 was totally not expecting me to be here because he wasn't even pointing his gun at my direction for quite a while. And then he still has, there's 5 tanks remaining, so they have to be further over. And I've spotted the T-32. Again, I'm not currently his priority, but then I start putting rounds into him when he starts paying attention. I sort of hang around him when he's pointing his gun at me, which I shouldn't have done, because I am spotted. And he gets another round into me there. However, now I'm going to have to back off because I just can't afford to take another hit. I can try and keep him spotted though, and he's gone. So now I'm no longer spotted, but as soon as I move forward again, I'm spotted again. So there's somebody out there that's out-spotting me. One of the tank destroyers or the heavy tank. It's possible even the heavy tank could outspot me depending on the make of the heavy tank that's left. The ISU-152, I doubt if it's him that's outspotting me. The Russian tank destroyers don't have great view ranges. But we've managed to get some more spotting damage and direct damage in here, and I'm still spotted, but the remaining enemy tanks now are spotted as well. So we have a T-25 AT and a T-29. T-25 AT is not pointed my way, so I'm going to put rounds into them as long as I can, just for arm the damage, might as well. It's not it's a Minuteman, yeah, which is a variant of the T-29. But should, or at least I would expect it to have similar view range to the T-29. And that's it. It's game over. So let's have a look at the result of this game. So now we've got a good bit of damaging ribbons and we've got a good bit of assistance damage. And we got a lot of money, but a lot of that was, operational boosts. So over 2,000 damage, over 2,000 assisted damage, nearly 4,500 damage between the two of them. Got an ace tanker, which is nice. And we come number 1 by experience, on top of the Pershing, which did very, very well for himself. And if you look at the enemy tanks, you'll notice that the ones that did the best are actually the ones that were killed last, that were on the western side of the village. The guys that actually went to the hill didn't do a whole lot. And the other interesting thing is that the bulk of the guys that went west were the top tier tanks. So the enemy didn't have any top tier tanks fighting on the hill, whereas it looks like we did. So that also probably made a significant difference on the hill. Well, they had the fatherland, I think. But he was in a very rear position. It was obviously quite late getting there. So the overall result was a pretty comfortable win on our part. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and please share it around. Thank you for watching. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.